Hello, everyone. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. I'm Steve,
I'm Scott.
and together we're Backyard Musings, broadcasting live, Apple Valley, California.
Science and technology is what we talk about, and thank you very much to our subscribers
Thank
and
you.
And those anybody that listens. But
It
really,
clicks, yeah.
really appreciate the
Yeah.
subscribers.
Overwork can lead to neuroadaptive changes that impair cognitive and emotional health. Working long hours may actually change the structure of your brain, according to new research published in Occupational and Environmental Medicine. The study points to alterations in key brain areas responsible for emotional regulation and executive functions like working memory and problem solving. Researchers believe that chronic overwork could trigger neuroadaptive changes which might have lasting effects on both cognitive performance and emotional well-being. The research was presented on March 1st, 2025 in the Occupational Environmental Medicine. Would you like to know more?
The dangers of working too much extend beyond burnout. Long hours have already been linked to higher risks of heart disease, metabolic disorders, and mental health problems. The International Labor Organization, ILO, reports that overwork contributes to more than 800,000 deaths worldwide each year. While the mental and emotional toll of overwork is well recognized, scientists are still uncovering what happens inside the brain itself. That doesn't seem like a lot of deaths worldwide.
Well, yeah, like the overwork, it's not like you're getting your head bludgeoned or you're falling from the sky in an airplane.
Right. Well, you just maybe not taking care of yourself, not getting enough sleep, not getting good
Maybe
food,
stress,
eat too much fast food, not enough of those bento meals.
Right.
Probably spending too much time at the watering hole after work. Yeah.
To explore this further, the researchers deployed structural brain volume analysis to compare the impact of overwork on specific brain regions in healthcare workers. Healthcare, like doctors, they work what, 48-hour shifts?
Yeah. They do. I mean, they work weird hours, but I mean, do they do that? Why do they do that? I mean, they sometimes they show up in your hospital room at
maybe there's
3
not
o'clock
enough
in the
doctors.
morning.
Maybe there's not enough doctors to spread the load.
That could be.
Routinely clocking up long working hours defined as 52 or more a week. They drew on data from, that's a long week, 52 hours. I mean, that's 8-hour day plus lunches. 9 times 5, that's 45. Okay. Long lunches. They drew on data from the Gachon Regional Occupational Cohort Study, GROCS, and from MRI scans carried out for a research project on the effects of working conditions on brain structure.
Participants in GROCS were asked to have an additional MRI scan, and the final analysis included 110 people after excluding those with missing data or poor MRI image quality. What is that? Most were clinicians. Really? That's weird. 32 worked excessive work hours, about 28%. 78 worked standard work hours. So what is that? 40-hour work week?
Yeah.
Those putting in long working hours every week were significantly younger, had spent less time in work, and were more highly educated than those clocking up standard hours.
Differences in brain volume were assessed using voxel-based morphometry, VBM, neuroimaging technique that identifies and compares regional differences in levels of gray matter, and atlas-based analysis, which uses predefined references to identify and label structures in images like brain scans.
Comparative analysis of the findings showed that people who worked 52 or more hours a week displayed significant changes in brain regions associated with executive function and emotional regulation, unlike participants who worked standard hours every week.
For example, atlas-based analysis revealed a 19% increase in the volume of the middle frontal gyrus among those clocking up long working hours compared with those working standard hours. This part of the brain has a major role in various cognitive functions, particularly in the frontal lobe. It's involved in attention, working memory, and language-relating processing.
VBM showed peak increases in 17 regions, including the middle frontal gyrus, the superior frontal gyrus, which is involved in attention, planning, and decision-making, and the insula. The insula has a key role in integrating sensory, motor, and autonomic feedback from the body. It's involved in emotional processing, self-awareness, and understanding social context. Maybe I don't have one of those.
Huh. You don't have that?
I'm
Self-awareness?
not much into social context and self-awareness, so
Maybe it's stunted.
maybe so.
I don't know. This is a small observational snapshot study, and as such, no firm conclusions can be drawn about cause and effect. Why are we talking about this then? And the researchers acknowledge that in the absence of long-term data, it's unclear whether these structural changes are a consequence of overwork or a predisposing factor.
But they nevertheless point out, quote, while the results should be interpreted cautiously due to the exploratory nature of this pilot study, they represent a meaningful first step in understanding the relationship between overwork and brain health, unquote.
They add, quote, notably, the increased brain volumes observed in overworked individuals may reflect neuroadaptive responses to chronic occupational stress, although the exact mechanisms remain speculative, end quote.
They continue, the observed changes in the brain volume may provide a biological basis for the cognitive and emotional challenges often reported in overworked individuals. Future longitudinal and multimodal neuroimaging studies are warranted to confirm these findings and elucidate the underlying mechanisms.
And they
Explain, I think that word means explain, right?
Yeah, elucidate, explain.
Yeah.
And they conclude, quote, the results underscore the importance of addressing overwork as an occupational health concern and highlight the need for workplace policies that mitigate excessive working hours. Yeah, I think they were trying to do legislation that for management that works overtime to pay them. You know.
Okay, so
The
I worked
Congress
in the supply chain business for
Yeah.
about 30 years.
Pipe,
Actually,
plumbing.
32 years. I worked a couple of years in electrical supply and then about 30 some in the plumbing. And some of my days were long, 10, 12 hours, not uncommon. I mean, we were open from 6 in the morning until 5 at night, and you never got to leave. You know, when it was done, you always had to do paperwork or whatever afterwards. So it was a long day, and it was trying. But, you know, that was the field that we chose, and that was the way the company ran. So you either did it or you moved on. You know, you either moved on by your own accord or you moved on because they said, hey, you're not cutting it. So, but, I don't know. I mean, it was stressful, and I'm glad I'm not doing it. Definitely not glad I'm not doing it anymore, but because I was born to be slothful. I think I've mentioned that before. But it was.
You don't seem like it.
It was kind of stressful.
You're like a pack mule when it comes to helping others.
It was stressful doing that, you know, and dealing with corporate. That was probably the most stressful.
Yeah.
Dealing with people who really, they were business sensed, but they weren't customer and common sense about the business that we were in. But you couldn't tell them that. It was all good. So
yeah, good.
But
all right, folks, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.
That's the reason why we retire, right?
Yeah.